I just wanted to put together a very quick video for putting together uh, custom bows to use in Conan Exiles. It's something I had trouble with myself a couple of weeks ago. And while people were helpful on the Discord, there are certain steps that I sort of had to take a leap of faith on and work out for myself. Because there's no step-by-step guide really to it. There's a lot of good advice, which is things like export a model from the dev kit, see how it works, bring it back in. But there's like also little details that nobody really explains. And the information is out there. It's just in so many different places that I just felt like something specifically constrained might make things a little bit more clearer. So obviously the first piece of advice, which is the best piece of advice, is find a bow, actions, export, save it onto your hard drive, and then import it in. Because that's not only going to give you something to use as a visual guide for how your bow should be rotated, how it should be scaled, but it also gives you the most important part, which is the skeleton, because it is a skeletal mesh, it is rigged. And if you want it to animate in-game, you're going to need to use the skeletal mesh. A little bit about the skeletal mesh. It's divided into two halves, the left side and the right side. The left side is the top, right side's the bottom. There is an extra bone in here, which is where the arrow sits, but it's not used in the bow itself, although it is part of the skeleton. So this here is a nice pointer for knowing where your bowstring needs to separate, but apart from that, it's not needed. So just so you can see, these two bones operate the strings, or the string should I say. You can see that this gap here is where the arrow sits into. So this is the part that mediates between the 2 points. There's no animation in the game where the bow moves this extreme. This is purely for demonstrative purposes. And then we have these parts, which are the limbs, which, you know, they stretch sort of as a whole. And you'll notice that the handle in the middle where your hand goes is not animated at all. This is not assigned to any vertex group. It's just there as is. So I'm just going to Alt-R to reset the rotations on all of these pieces. And I'm going to hide this bow. I've already put together the bow that I'm going to use for this example. I went with something a little bit more extravagant, just so you can see that it doesn't matter. You can still do it with just the 4 bones. It's very important to make sure that your strings come and bend in the location where the bone starts, because otherwise it's going to separate off the model. So what I'm going to do here is right click my model, shift right click the armature, hold Control P, and I'm going to assign it with empty groups. Empty groups means that it has the bones now, but there's no vertex assigned to any bones. This is the bone for the arrow that I was talking about before. We don't need this, so I'm just going to remove it. First thing I'm going to do is hide everything but the string. Now we know that this little set of faces here is where the arrow rests. So what we can do is take this top half, left string assign, invert our selection, right string assign. We're going to unhide the bow and then hide everything except the bow. And now we're given our main forms to work on the animation for. So I'm going to leave most of this handle alone. I'm going to work from about here. Once again, left side at the top. And the right side on the bottom. If I come back into pose mode, you can now see that once again we've got our limbs leaving the handle alone. Probably want to come further down into the handle because this is a really sharp joint on top of that bone. You can probably do with making sure that the hand covers the majority of it, and then it's not going to look too weird. And then we got our string. I've got a lot of verts in this string. Technically you only need your two ends and these two, so you have that set of faces in the middle, and then you can just get rid of all the other ones. So from here I'm just going to select my bow, shift right click my armature, go into object mode. That was what people refer to when they say skinning. It's another form of this, like weight painting and things like this. Weight painting doesn't really seem applicable here. You could probably use it to smooth out some of the area around the handle if you want a bit of a softer curve on there, but I'm not entirely sure how that is handled in Unreal, so I've just been sticking with essentially how I've seen it handled by Funcom so far. From here we're going to export as an FBX. Make sure we use selected objects only because I still have that other bow hidden on my second layer and I don't want to be exporting that. I'm going to bring this in as SK example bow. This is proof that I did this video once already before, but I forgot to turn my mic on. So here we go. SK just as the denominator for a skeletal mesh. I'm going to export, and then we'll come back into Unreal. We'll work out where you want to be importing your model into. And this, drag it into that folder. We have skeletal mesh, import mesh. We need to set the skeleton to the bow basic wood skeleton, this took me a while to work out. Luckily Derpy Kitty told me about this because I had no idea what I was doing. It's something that's probably obvious if you're used to Unreal, but as somebody that came into modding Conan and had no idea about Unreal, it was a nightmare. Normal import is import normals and tangents, and physical asset is set to none. I don't think I've missed anything else on there. So I'm just going to hit import. You're going to get errors. Always get errors. I wouldn't worry about those. So I already have my material set up. I'm not going to go over how to do materials and textures because that should already be a thing. You then come into your data table. I already have an entry. If you don't have an entry, you can go to Conan's default item tables, find a bow, right click, copy row, right click, paste row, change the number, do whatever you need to do just to make sure we got this bow set up. You don't always need to do it, but I advise doing it because obviously you have all the different types of arrows and it's a pain in the ass to try and fill that out every time. So we got here, you want to make sure you have the right blueprint for a bow. Visual object should be a blueprint bow. This is your animations and stuff. Make sure you change the skeletal mesh. We're going to actually replace this one with our example bow one, just to show that it works. Two-handed range and bow for the weapon type, and that should be good. And then if I hit play, I should already have it on my inventory bar, so I won't need to load everything up. We have our bow, and then hopefully, as you can see, the animation of the limbs and of the bow, of the string. When you release, you get that nice little wobble of the string, which is a nice touch by Funcom. I do like that. And that should be everything you need to get a bow sorted. I hope that helped. Any extra questions I will try and answer, but I'm far from, you know, an expert. I'm still learning myself. But I will try and help. So yeah, good luck.